Hi, let's begin with the Sosumi8964 browser. When it's done, it will be made public domain for everyone to enjoy. The aim of this browser is to take back control of privacy and data ownership. This is where everything begins. When you launch the Picker browser, you will be given the opportunity to create new hyperdrives. A hyperdrive is essentially a folder that you can locate anywhere on your storage device, and the content of these folders will be served onto the distributed network. What makes Sosumi8964 browser different is that it would have no scripting interpreter. That means JavaScript or any other language will be banned from the browser. The hyperdrives will be stored on instantly removable local data storage as described in Missile8964 specification. Within this browser, there will be two functions that are always on. The first one is an instant watermark function to make sure every outgoing media file will be watermarked to prevent social media from stealing. Another always-on function is the availability of avatars and voice distortion in video conferencing. Next, we have the Lennon wall metaphor. It is made possible by what's called UI/UX resequencing by eval. In Lennon wall metaphor, we treat every social media as the same thing because they are all just some picture or videos with text explanations. So they are just the same thing with different visual formatting. We will be using a local plugin mechanism to extract and insert social media feeds. With this mechanism in place, we can gradually phase out centralized social media of any kind, now and in the future. In Lennon wall metaphor, every posting is a Kanban or Post-it note stored locally in the user's hyperdrive via markup text files. The new metaphor enables a charity layer that will force companies to earn advertising privileges by sponsoring local needs directly. It would also enable direct sales of goods from brands to consumers and bypass middle warehousing like Amazon. It will also enable direct sales of content without paying the middle services like YouTube, iTunes. The content producers stores and controls content directly. When it comes to human resources, this new metaphor will allow direct resume and the hiring supervisor to interact without human resource personnel. It gets rid of all marketing control software and data collections. In Lennon wall metaphor, there are 6 concurrent payment methods for all activities. The first is free, which means volunteering. The second is future care exchange, which is time credit for future post-retirement healthcare. The idea is for younger retirees to spend time taking care of older retirees who are less nimble and mobile. The third is sponsorship or donation, and this is the only option for advertisers to pay for advertising privileges. The fourth is the traditional money, which is your currency, local currency, or credit cards, or debit cards. The fifth is bidding, which means for popular items or popular activities, people can bid on it for maximum financial returns. And the sixth is bartering, and this would allow people to exchange expertise for each other's needs. All six of them will be made available for every posting of product or content or whatever activity that's been posted, so that each will be balanced out by each other, because everyone will be able to see what people are willing to pay or bid for or do whatever for the product or activities they desire. This is the first public example of the land and wall metaphor. The first column on the left are the social media and news feeds. These feeds come from the common social media services that we use, such as Facebook, IG, Twitter, and Snapchat. In this metaphor, we use a plugin mechanism to read from each social media feed and mix the feeds into the same stream in our metaphor. This will make it obvious why we treat all social media as basically the same thing, except they're just different media formatters. The second column, we have the neighborhood feeds. This is where sponsored anarchism happens. The first posting on top is a request for a rescue mission to save a feral cat. It is case number 8964, and it comes from me, James C. Lin. Immediately to the right of this posting, we see this ad from Northern Telecom. And on this ad, you will see that the payment for this advertising privilege come from case 8964. Next, we have case number TKTK from Nepalea. It is a request for sponsorship for a Thanksgiving meal for 4 local schools. If you look to the right, the second posting is an ad from Bell Canada. This ad is allowed to appear because Bell Canada sponsored case number TKTK. This mechanism also allows advertising for charities for free. If you look at the third sponsor messages posting, it is an ad from Tim Hortons, Harvey's, and Swiss Chalet. They are fast food joints in Canada. On this ad, you see that all 3 of them are offering free meals for kids under 16 who need it. In land and wall metaphor, we make these ads free to make sure the right thing that needs to get done gets done in the best way possible. And lastly, we have somebody called Lucille who is making her violin cover of the theme songs of Totoro online. As you can see here, there are several payment methods available. Anyone who wishes to hear Lucille's performance can pay for it directly, and Lucille gets to benefit financially directly. The rightmost column is where the housekeeping happens. On top, we have listings of outgoing data. The column on the left are financial data that might go out to the network when making purchases. These are only entered once, and they are listed here for quick access, for editing and changes. This also allows the user to be aware what important privacy data and financial data is going out. To the right, we have the profile files. Each user would have the opportunity to make up all kinds of profile files that introduce themselves, which offers different levels of privacy. For example, we have public profiles, profiles for friends, profile for dating, profile for jobs, such as resume and freelancing. Lastly, we also have the volunteer profile. Maybe you are somebody who likes to do charity work anonymously. Next, in the middle left, we have the preferred hashtags. These hashtags will be used to bring in feeds from the outside world that suits your taste. To the right, we have a list of trusted people. Again, this would allow users to bring in feeds from people the user trusts. On the bottom left, we have the blacklist. This means everything listed here gets filtered out without coming into any of the feeds. To the right, we have the preferred entities. Now, these entities can be companies, can be schools, can be governments, or can be any kind of organization that the user trusts. And then finally, we have the square of outgoing traffic. Now, we know the packets that goes out are not readable by human. The goal is to make sure that within this window, whenever privacy or financial data goes out, they come out highlighted or in human readable form to alert the users that important information is getting accessed. Next, the markup language itself. It is actually just a superset of Markdown. And the goal of this markup files and the markup language is to manifest universal equality and enlighten industrial revolution. Next, the markup language. With all due respect to John Gruber and Aaron Swartz, they are the original inventors of the Markdown language, and the original intentions are noble to keep it simple, and we respect that and appreciate their contributions. Markup is just a superset of Markdown. We're just adding a few keywords to enable Kanban division and a little bit of background formatting for aesthetics and push scheduling. These markup files will be stored on local hyperdrives, and they will only get delivered when a request comes in. We'll make sure that the user logs the source and ID of every request. Next, we'll look at some examples of MO files and see how they work. Right now, the MO files are divided into 5 subcategories. First are the social media files. Basically, they perform exactly the same function as social medias to replace them. Next, we have the company and commerce MO files. These are for companies to perform their business functions and earn money. However, I want to point out 2 special types. They will be available for them for free. One is when they post available jobs to the local people. The other are the goodwills. For example, certain type of charity functions fall into this category. Then we have the file types called the local mom and pop operations. These are for local small businesses to perform their functions and promote their goods, services, or their menus. Next, we have the neighborhood files. Basically, these are things that happens in the neighborhood that needs sponsorship. So these are the source of files that make sponsor anarchy possible. Whenever these files are posted, either a volunteer response or some corporations respond with donations of money. In exchange, these corporations get to advertise. Then we have the personal MO files for the users. These are pretty self-explanatory too. If you look at the file names of these files, you will see that they fulfill the needs of anybody to go through their lives. And with this kind of setup, these files are stored locally. And whenever they are accessed, the person who accessed them and how often these files are accessed will be logged within the file themselves. You're welcome to pause this video to look at each individual entry and see what kind of function they perform. Now, if you will look at the middle top, where it says mark out additional text, there will be 2 types of text being added to the markdown repertoire. The first type is to add all kinds of scopes, such as geographical scopes, repeat frequency, and what else do we have here? The profiles attached to each posting. Then we have the formatting tags. These tags are there to make each file look prettier than the plain text that's usually generated from the markdown files. Now we'll look at some of the target dates for these projects. For the Lennon wall metaphor itself, you have already seen the desktop version, so we'll work on a beautified version of this, And also, there's a need to produce a mobile version of this Berlin Wall metaphor, both of which will be made available to the public by October 1st. On that same day, so will be the Markov language specification. The browser itself will be finalized by December 1st of 2021. As for the hardware, Missile8964, the 3D files will be made available on November 1st. The target date for global deployment will be December 1st.